gameplay factor of him is super monotonous. So it's not going to be like, it's not going to like trigger any kind of dopamine in your brain. Nothing's going to happen there. And so you just got to slowly get bored of him. At least that's what I predict. Maybe that's not going to be true. Who knows? But that's what I predict. But without dilly-dallying too much, let's see if people will go for the flying boy or the Asian mummy. I think people will go for the flying boy 100%. I think at least on this specific Asian mummy rerun, I'd say they're going to go for the flying boy, just because Scaramouche has been known as a character far before the Asian mummy existed, right? Or was conceptualized. So probably him, but she'll still rack in a lot of roles. Like I myself will probably roll on a Raiden Shogun here and there if I'm feeling up to it. Who knows? Probably still gonna say for like maybe like a Suffer Home or something though. Okay, but whilst we're still in analytical mode, Mr. Reed, Faruzan. But we just did Scaramouche Douchey, and now we're gonna do a bit of a Faruzan, or I believe I looked it up at the pronunciation. It's like Faruzan or Faruzan, something like that. But Faruzan, Anemo bow character. That is true. No image, but Anemo bow character. Association Sumeru. She is a 4-star. And she is, in fact, a support character. Ascension materials are right here. If you want the actual numbers, 168 red crests, which are in the desert, some Eremite bandit masks things, and the light guiding tetrahedron, which is the material drop from the Simon, or the triangle boss that was added in also the desert area, and then obviously Anemo crystals, because Anemo character. Now, Ascension stat, bonus attack percent. 24 to be exact at level 90, which you're probably going to want to do. You're most likely going to want to do this for a plethora of reasons. You're going to at least want to get it to 80, probably 90, just to get that base attack higher. Which we'll get into now, because we go to her skills, which her normal attack, irrelevant, doesn't matter, you don't level it up, it pretty much doesn't do anything. It could be removed and it would still be the same, like most bow characters except for Yoimiya and Ganyu. But the skill and the burst is where it's at. So, in summary, I don't want to read too much of this because it's just too many words. Faruzan, you press her skill and you get the Manifest Gale state. This is like indicated by a small like kind of diamond next to your character's head, and it's kind of obvious, but it's, you know, that's what it's called, the Manifest Gale state. And then when you're in this state, Faruzan's next charge shot will consume this state, and it will become a Hurricane Arrow that deals Anemo damage to opponent's hit, and that's considered charge attack damage. What does the Hurricane Arrow do? Well, when it hits an enemy, it creates a pressurized collapse on impact, or hitting an enemy rather. So I think you can shoot it just at the ground and it does the same thing, as well as on an enemy, and it'll do it on that enemy. What is the pressurized collapse, you may ask? Well, it's essentially a Sucrose E. That's all it is. That is not even an oversimplification, that is exactly what it is. It's just a Sucrose E. It's the same kind of strength of Suck. It's really weak. It's really kind of not that great to use as a grouping mechanism by itself. We'll get into that a bit later, because there is a part of her kit in Constellations which really makes this good, but by itself, pressing E and then shooting, not that viable of a kind of a gameplay style. But that's what it is. The damage is like decent at best, 162 on the pressurized collapsed and 162 on the hurricane hit, and then the skill damage 267, which yeah. As for this the duration, so the Manifest Gale duration, you have 18 seconds to actually fire the shot off, which is a generous amount of time. I don't know who's actually going to be waiting 18 seconds, but some people are. And as for the 600% seconds here, that obviously doesn't make any sense. I believe that's going to be either 6 seconds or 10-second cooldown, somewhere around there, 6 to 10 second cooldown, not 600% seconds. Obviously that makes no sense. Skill is kind of irrelevant without the rest of her build, but we'll cover it one by one. Her burst, though, on the other hand, is probably one of the best standalone pieces of kit to be created in Genshin in a long time. So, Faruzan deploys a dazzling polyhedron that deals Anemo damage and releases a whirlwind pulse. While the dazzling polyhedron persists, it will continuously move along a triangular path. Once it reaches each corner of the triangular path, it will unleash one whirlwind pulse. Now, what does that mean? Oh, it will move along a triangle? Well, let me open my trusty tool, Paint here. Okay, so what does that mean? It said it will move along in a triangle path. So if your Faruzan is this green dot right here, if that's your Faruzan, you will deploy your polyhedron right here. Essentially in front of you. And then it will move this way. A certain distance. I don't fucking know the distance, but it will move this way. And then it will go here. And then it'll do an explosion of damage there. And then it'll travel this way. Probably not that far, but then it'll land here and do an explosion there. And then it'll travel back to its initial location and do another explosion there. That is what it means by moving a triangular path. We need a good paint description or illustration to showcase this because some people might not know what triangles are. That's what it means. And yes, so yeah, once it reaches each corner of the triangle path, it will unleash one whirlwind pulse. What does whirlwind pulse do, you might ask? Well, let me explain. When it hits an opponent, it will apply the peripherous wind's ruin to them, decreasing the enemy's Anemo resistance. Yes, you heard it correctly. Anemo shredding is in the game in areas other than Viridescent Venera and Zhongli's shield. Thank fuck. So yes, each pulse of the triangle corner will decrease it, the Anemo resistance, and we'll get into the percentages in a second because there's another effect. And also the whirlwind pulse will also apply Prayerful Wind's gift to nearby characters when it is unleashed, granting them Anemo damage bonus. So her burst does two things. Anemo shredding to the enemies, and Anemo damage bonus to the player. Quite ridiculous to actually have both of those things on one character, but it's there, and that's why she's going to be a staple in most Anemo DPS teams. Specifically, Zhao, Heizo, Wanderer. These three characters, if you don't have a Faruzan, I'm sorry, but you're just playing the game wrong. As for the actual values, well, the Anemo damage bonus changes with talent level. So you're gonna want to get this character to Constellation, I believe it's 3? Yeah, you're gonna want to get this character to Constellation 3 because this character crowned and Constellation 3, you're getting 50% Anemo damage bonus when you chuck your burst down. You are essentially equipping a second goblet. Not quite equal value, but 10% less than an actual goblet, which is rather ridiculous, or 10 to 20-ish%. To get that much damage bonus just from casting your burst. And if you take a look at the cooldown and burst cost, energy cost, 12 seconds with 20 energy cost, kind of ridiculous. Obviously, it says here the duration of the actual 50% damage bonus is only 4 seconds, but because if you stay near the triangle, you'll constantly be getting it refreshed, thus you'll probably have it for about 10 to 12 seconds. It doesn't actually tell you the duration of the polyhedron here. As for the Anemo resistance shred, it's 40% static. It doesn't upgrade with the actual talent, so you get a static 40%, which is actually also rather ridiculous. That's a large percentage for it to be static. So even if you don't level this up to 13, if you can keep it at a solid 6, you still get 33% damage bonus with 40% shred. Or even if you get it to level 9 and you don't want to crown it, you get 40% of both of them, right? So you could very easily do that if you don't want to invest super heavily, but you want to, like a decent, like extremely good, rather. I'm not going to call it decent. It's going to be still extremely good. But yeah. Level 13. Just get level 13. Rolling this character. That is her burst. The burst is like the most important thing. Everything else is kind of like mid at best. The skill, mid at best. Normal attack, non-existent. It's really where the burst is at least baseline. Onto the passives. These are... I can't actually remember what these do again. But we'll go through them anyway. Expedition time, doesn't matter. Passive 1, Impetuous Flow. When Faruzan... Oh yes, this is the charged arrow shot time decreased. So when she triggers her skill, she has a charge shot time taken to charge a shot decreased by 60%, and she can also apply the Wind's Secret Ways Perfidious Wind's Ruin effect to the enemies with this shot. So you charge a shot 60% faster, and you also apply the 40% Anemo Shred with your skill. So that is where the skill maybe gets a lot more value, is that you don't have to press your burst to get a massive shred. So if you want to do a bit of open world kind of like fuckery around, you don't have to press burst. You can just kind of do it a skill, shoot the ground or shoot the enemy, and then switch to your main DPS and kind of like with the 40% Anemo shred, which is rather good. It's kind of like a bit more of an open world thing though, because in the Abyss, that's not really going to be that important unless you have a certain constellation, which we'll get into a second here. As for her second passive, or third, whichever one you count, when characters affected by the Wind's Secret Ways Prayerful Wind's gift deal damage to opponents, that is the Anemo damage bonus portion of her burst. When characters affected by this deal Anemo damage bonus, this damage will be increased based on 50%, or 57.4% of Faruzan's own attack. This damage bonus will be cleared 0.1 seconds after dealing Anemo damage to opponents and can be triggered once every 1 second. Essentially, you get a attack stack on this character. 24% base attack bonus on her Ascension stat. You're going to go for an attack weapon. You're going to go for attack artifact sets. You're going to just go for full attack. Try to get like 3k attack on this character, probably. That would be a good amount to have, because then this is about 1.5 thousand bonus damage on this. Give or take a few numbers there. Which will be absolutely ridiculous. But obviously, it has a bit of an internal cooldown of 1 second, so it's going to be up and down if it's going to be overly amazing, but it'll be decent. And without constellations, this character is already, I'd say, like almost a must-have character. Honestly, you know what I'm going to say? I think it's probably stronger than Bennett if you talk about raw value for a specific build. Like, not having a Faruzan versus having a Faruzan for an Anemo team, just baseline, is like night and day. Just the fact that you can have 40% damage bonus and 40% shred just by owning the character is kind of ridiculous. As well as like moderate grouping, not too easy to do, but still, as well as also just a bit of extra damage is kind of ridiculous. And also she'll probably do a lot of damage baseline because you'll have a lot of base attack. So baseline, no constellations, fucking amazing. Now onto the first constellation, see what else or other value you can get from investing in her. Faruzan can fire off a maximum of 2 hurricane arrows using fully charged aim shots while under a single skill cast. You press a skill, you can do 2 charge shots and do 2 hurricane arrows in a row under 1. It's not that great. C1 is pretty dog shit, I'll be honest with you. C2, the duration of her burst is increased by 6 seconds, so you can pretty much get about 100% uptime, I would say, on this. If you get C2, it's about 100% uptime, because I believe the base duration right now is either 6 to 8 seconds. I can't quite remember, because it also just doesn't tell you here. But increased by 6%. The Constellation 3 is the skill, which is not the one that you want, to be quite frank with you. You don't really want the skill constellation, but that's there, so you're going to have to get it if you do get the character. C4, again, it's energy restoration. She has like a 20 cost energy on her burst, so it's like almost irrelevant. Actually, this constellation pretty much is like actually probably the most useless constellation in the game, seeing as she literally, it costs 20, so kind of irrelevant. C5 is the one that you're going to want. Elemental burst level increases by 3, which is super important to get that extra Anemo damage bonus, 50.37%. Get it. And then C6 is the part that I think is going to probably like make or break this character in terms of like making them like a supreme deity in terms of fucking power providing. So characters affected by the essentially, which one is this? The Anemo damage bonus portion of her burst have 40% bonus crit damage when they deal Anemo damage. So you press her burst, your Anemo characters have 40% damage bonus, or crit damage bonus, sorry. It's pretty great. You have... nice. When your own active character deals damage while affected by Prayerful Wind's gift, they will fire another hurricane arrow at opponents. This effect can be triggered once every 2.5 seconds. The whole C6 is amazing. The whole C6 is amazing, and here's why. So you press Faruzan's burst, and your Anemo characters deal, or rather gain, 40% crit damage to their Anemo attacks. Now, that's very specific, and that's something that you'll notice throughout all of Faruzan, that it specifies Anemo damage. She doesn't buff anything else other than Anemo damage. It's not damage, it's not Anemo based on attack of Anemo damage, it's Anemo damage. So if you're running a Zhao, per se, but you're not in his burst, I do apologize, but you are going to be taking some L's. And then, you know, if you're, I guess the other two main DPS is Wanderer and Hazo, so they only do Anemo damage. So, I'm going to be a bit more targeted towards those two characters, but regardless, it's going to be really, really strong on every Anemo character because of 40% crit damage. The second part is, did the music just stop? It did, god damn it. Chuck that back on, eh? The second part is, during the burst, whenever you deal Anemo damage, essentially, when your own active character deals damage, not even Anemo damage, just deals damage, you will automatically shoot out a hurricane arrow, which is essentially Faruzan's skill. So you're gonna have a natural grouping. You're gonna have very, very natural grouping. Now, it is every 2.5 seconds, which is not an abundantly long time, but seeing as her burst lasts upwards of about 10 to maybe 12, pushing on 14 seconds, depending on what the base duration is, let's just assume 12 for now, you'll be able to get at least about 4 casts off, 5 maybe. So you get a decent amount of casts off with this. And it's just passive grouping. You don't have to think about it, you just attack. Bear in mind, it would be better if it was something like a, well, maybe, I'm thinking about Zhao now, and you plunge down, then they group in, and then plunge down, they get out, then you plunge down, they group in, and so, something like that would work, but then also characters like Hazel would work, he knocks them back, they get it sucked in, so it's a really good thing. Her C6 is probably one of the higher value C6s out there, just because of the 40 crit damage, as well as this just passive grouping. Really fucking high value. Really, really high value. So, Faruzan, what is she? A must-have. A must-have if you have not even a, well, I guess you even Kaza, but if you have a Hazo that you want to use, if you have a Wanderer, if you get him, and if you have a Zhao, Faruzan, if you do not have her, you are essentially saying, I don't like winning, because having Faruzan just baseline is infinitely more value, most likely. Like, very, very high chance, baseline, it's better to have her than pretty much whatever else you may think is better. Better than probably a Zhangling on the team, or whatever the fuck. Just Faruzan is that high value with her burst and the C6. But obviously C6 for a 4-star, not the easiest thing to get, because Genshin's RNG in that regards is very poopy face. Now, builds. Bows. Builds and bows. Bows and builds. Let's open up the artifact tab here as well. Weapons-wise, I'd say just probably go for base attack. You don't really need any specific stat. You just want, like, attack. Like high attack, so everything scales higher. So Hammer Yumi works, the Predator Bow works, Moon's Moon, King's Squire. You could probably look at some of these here that have, like, slightly better effects, but generally speaking, high base attack, the Amos Bow if you really wanted to. What else is there? The Alley Hunter wouldn't be an overly terrible one. You kind of get this, like, extra damage effect if she's off field long enough. Prototype Crescent, although not good ability, rather decent attack percents and whatnot. Rust Mare, Royal Bow Mare. You just want attack and attack percent just to make sure she has super high attack. Thus can boost characters' damage more, because her attack doesn't actually do anything other than that. And she has a super low energy cost, or rather burst cost for energy, so you don't need to get energy recharge. You maybe could go into an elemental mastery build so you make her react a bit stronger, but that's probably also not necessary. As for artifacts, this is probably where it gets a bit harder to judge. Viridescent Venera is going to be a good one if you want only 2 characters that are Anemo in your party. If you want something like a Hazo to be your main DPS and Faruzan to be just the only other Anemo, you're gonna want Faruzan to be the Viridescent Venera. But if you maybe run a triple, then you want Faruzan to be like 2 18% attacks, so she can get the most value out of attack. Thinking of other things. That's really about it. It's really about it. You're just trying to get attack stacking or Viridescent Venera, depending on your team composition. But speaking of team composition, who are you going to run this character with? Well, they're a support, so they just have to be on an Anemo main DPS's team, or just another Anemo character's team. That's like the bare minimum. The other character slots don't really matter, to be absolutely honest with you. You can chuck whatever the hell you want on there. You just want Faruzan accompanied by another Anemo character, and you'll just have a decent amount of value there. There's no other real gimmicks to it. It's a rather simple and straightforward kind of character. And as I did say earlier, yeah, they are quite simple and straightforward. They are very good and very strong, but they're not complex in any way. They just blast them away kind of characters. And so with that, I believe Faruzan is also done and covered. These will be uploaded as videos tonight and tomorrow if I don't pass out, or if I don't whatever, if I survive. That they are going to be super strong. These two are going to be a massive combo, and I'm waiting to see. I'm very excited to see the kind of the Xiao builds make a return with Faruzan. That's one thing I'm interested in seeing, is also the return of like Hazo one-shot builds, seeing a higher number with that. But I think that also might not happen because you have to get rid of like a Mona, and I think Mona's probably more effective, but who knows? We'll have to wait and see. I'm very excited to see these things, but maybe for consistency, maybe a Xiao Faruzan would be super good. But I'm excited to see the people that bring back Anemo characters like Xiao and make them even stronger. But that's been Faruzan, and that's been talking about these new characters. There we go. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you enjoyed.